We have a special circumstance, special conditions that brought this session into being, which is, as far as we know, there have never been guests at the Parliament of World Religions from the People's Republic of China. Parliament, this is number 5, and I believe Dharma Master Ming Hai is the first Chinese delegate and the first Chinese Buddhist monk.
Number 6.
Number 6.
6.
Number 6 Parliament. Okay, the first Chinese guest ever to be there. So we're all part of history. We're all making history together today with us. And the idea of this panel was that his teacher. Let me first go step by step. Master Ming Hai is the abbot of a monastery in a place called Shijiazhuang in China, Hebei province, a place called Bailin Monastery. Bailin Monastery, over 160 monks and a long tradition. And his teacher, the founder of that monastery, was a monk whose name was Venerable Jing Hui. And Venerable Jing Hui's teacher was the monk who arguably was the most celebrated monk in Chinese Buddhist history of the last 300 years, a monk named Empty Cloud, Master Xu Yun, who lived to be 120 years old, powered by vegetables, I might add. He was the monk who rebuilt 5 traditions in the Chan or Zen lineage. For various historical reasons we won't go into now, those lineages had been broken for multiple generations. But Master Empty Cloud was considered to be by all those, by Chinese Buddhism in general, to be the rebuilder, the reformer of all of the 5 lineages of Chan. So Master Ming Hai is through his teacher, the 45th generational holder of the Linji school of Chinese Buddhism, known in Japan as Rinzai desu ne, so in Japan. So he is the Linji, and my name is Heng Shi. My teacher was Master Shenhua, Shang Shen Qiahua, and he was likewise a descendant of another of the schools of Chinese Chan, which we learned in Japan as Zen, right, from Japan as Zen. His school was the Weiyang school. So our founders, his in China, mine in America, both trace their Dharma wisdom and practices and insights from the Buddha through the same monk, Master Empty Cloud. So here we are in Salt Lake City, meeting essentially for the first time, sitting on a platform. And here's the interesting notion. My understanding of Buddhism, I began as interested in Zen, like a lot of us meditators, right? And only when I met my teacher, who came from China in 1962, did I discover a Buddhism with deeper historical roots. The Japanese learned from China as well, right? So my teacher, Master Shenhua, his Buddhist roots went all the way back to the historical Buddha, 2,600 years ago. And the Dharma teachings that I received were very systematic and complete. And what I discovered was that as a meditator, a Zen meditator, I had learned some ideas that were uniquely Japanese, but were not rooted in the teachings of the Buddha. So here I am, growing up in the Midwest of America, in the Chinese Buddhist tradition, learning teachings brought over by a Chinese pilgrim, interpreted through China from the Buddha. Master Ming Hai is a Chinese native who, as he's been explaining it to us since he's come the last 4 or 5 days from China with his colleagues, a Buddhism that has largely been rebuilt after the Cultural Revolution. And some people know, some don't, about the great proletariat Cultural Revolution. They're calling it the Holocaust. It really did lay waste to any of the religious traditions of China, Buddhism largely included. And so they started over again to rebuild the Buddha Dharma. And the world of China that he finds himself rebuilding the Buddhism of the past in has been largely influenced by the West. Think in terms of high tech, right? Apple is selling more iPhones in China than anywhere else in the whole world. And the Chinese look largely to science now as the direction they want China to go. And so here we are, two third-generation monks from Empty Cloud, our grandfather teacher, me, an American learning Chinese Buddhism in America, him, a Chinese rebuilding Chinese Buddhism in China, influenced by the West, in an America where mindfulness is now the new yoga, right? Mindfulness is now, as we say, it's on the cover of Time magazine, so we know it really exists, right? The mindfulness movement. So how interesting the cross, the conversation that has already begun between himself and myself. And we thought that would be worthwhile to bring to the Parliament. And so our plan is for me to introduce something that I very much value, that I have learned from the Chinese Buddhist tradition, and talk about it in terms of a problem that it solves in American culture, in Western culture. And then I'm going to ask Master Ming Hai to reflect on his understanding of that particular situation, respond to the things I say. He, in turn, is going to bring up an issue that he wants to introduce. You could say a problem needing a solution in Chinese culture that Buddhism solves, and then ask me to respond. So we thought that would be kind of the way we proceed. And this session, I don't know if you noticed in your program, that we are sharing this session. Originally we had 90 minutes per event, but this is because of the similarity of the topics, we're a shared session. And so following us are going to be some younger generation disciples of our tradition, the Dharma Realm Buddhist Association, also coming down to the same Chinese Buddhist lineage, talking about Buddhism in the modern world, application of some of these ideas from meditation, from virtue, from wisdom, and how they are addressing those, trying to integrate these insights of the Buddha into their daily lives. So that's our plan. We're going to go for 45 minutes. And who can be our timekeeper? Who can, Jinchuan, sure you want to let me know when you can hold up like a 5-minute sign, 5 minutes, and then after that the hook comes out, stop talking. So, all right? So give me the 5-minute high sign, and we'll aim for that. Okay, so far so good. We on the same page? Okay, there will now be a translation into Chinese of everything I've said. No, I'm kidding about that part. So I know what most of you want to learn Mandarin. That's a really good business decision, learning Mandarin. I mean, anybody? Yeah. So, okay. So so far?
Okay.
Good? All right. So if someone said to me, what is it about your training? I've been a monk now for 40 years now. I've been a Buddhist since 1973, which is longer than that. What do you value the most that you received as a monk in terms of teachings from the Chinese Buddhist tradition that answers a problem in the West? I would have to say it's the notion of character as the foundation of meditation. The Buddha, among the whole rainbow, the whole spectrum of Buddhist traditions, ways to be authentically Buddhist, probably everyone agrees that the Buddha authentically taught Shila, Samadhi, Prajna. That's Sanskrit. Pali, Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Right? Chinese, Jie, Ding, Hui. English, character, concentration, and insight. Right? Precepts, concentration, and wisdom. If you had to have one formula that summarizes everything the Buddha said, that would probably be a good one. There are others, not limited to that. Character, concentration, and insight. The way I learned it as a Zen meditator was, concentration and insight. We all wanted Kensho, we all wanted Satori, we didn't have any clue what it was, we wanted it, you know. Buy a 6-pack of it if they could package it, you know. I want an extra large Satori, you know. I had no idea what it was, but it was connected to meditation. So we practice in Zen. We practice, we sit until our zafu is broken, right? And we get to a certain level of accomplishment. But what next? How do you make it go deeper? Only when I met Master Shren Hua, and he said, you know, getting enlightened, that's great, but tell me about your anger. Tell me about your greed. Furthermore, when was the last time you called your mother? And of course I was, what does that have to do with Satori and Kensho? You know, I want to get enlightened now, Shifu, you know. And he would say, well, actually, you're halfway there, but if I can still make you angry, you have no samadhi and no wisdom. That was what he valued most. It was puzzling, right? So I looked into it more deeply. What I discovered was that first step, the character step, was actually the Buddha's own formula for practice. Character, concentration, and insight. In other words, who are you when you're not meditating? Has a lot to do with how you'll meditate. Right? The Buddha said we need to look at the nature and what covers it. So what I got from that, what did he mean when he said the nature and what covers it? What do we mean when he says character? The Buddha said virtue. In China, traditionally, there are 8. The first of these is connection to parents. The second of them is connection to siblings. The third of those is connection to the community with integrity. Xiao, Ti, Zhong, Xin, Li, Yi, Lian, Shi, the 8 traditional virtues of Buddhism. Filiality and fraternity are the first 2. What in the world? Filiality was a word that I learned only after I became a Buddhist. And so, here's the way I do it now. I teach at the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, and every Thursday night, the Spirit Rock meditation, you know, Jack Kornfield's group, comes on Thursday night. There's about 80 Americans. Did we all turn off our phones, by the way? Good idea. They come on Thursday night. About 80 Westerners, many of them Jewish psychotherapists for some reason, interestingly enough, right? Frustrated with Freud and wanting to find their own mind. So, healthy. And so, sometimes I teach. I stand in for the local teacher. And one night, it was my turn, and I said, okay, we're going to do an experiment. I want you all to see if we can't make our meditation go deeper. Now, they're not doing Zen, they're doing Vipassana meditation. What kind of experiment? I said, tonight, when you go home, call your mom. Ask how she's doing. Have a conversation with your parents, right? Then meditate. Come back next week, tell me what happened, right? They go, okay, sure. So, next week, okay, how many people did the experiment? And very few hands went up. Well, what about the rest of you? Well, I forgot my mother's phone number. I haven't talked to her for years. I kind of thought so, you know. What about you, Sumaya? You did it. What she said, amazing, amazing. She said, my mother used to sing that song, you know, when she saw me. You know what's wrong with you? I'll tell you what's wrong with you. This is what's wrong with you. She said, I heard that song. I just didn't want to hear it anymore, so I kind of moved away out of town. And, after you said that, the timing was right. I got her phone number. I had to dig in the back of my desk, and I called her. And first thing she said was, you know what's wrong with you? You never call me on the phone. That's what's wrong with you. She said, Mom, you're so cute. I'm going to come over and see you. And she lives 10 blocks away, and I hadn't seen her for years. I walked over to her house. She was shorter than I remember. And she looked up at me and she said, you know what, you're never wrong with you. You've never seen me. I gave her a hug. We talked for hours and hours and hours. And I taught her how to meditate. And we meditated together, and she said, my whole chest was warm. I had no idea that when I walked away from my mother, I put a block of ice right there where my heart should have been. And so everybody in the room hearing this is going, you know. And so I said, good, who else? Okay, and so John in the back, and John said, yeah. He said, my dad was one of those doomsday cult guys, you know. They wound up on the beach in Santa Monica waiting for the world to end, and the sun rose just as always, you know. And so he went out to Bakersfield, to the edge of the desert, and sat in the dark house. And I just knew he'd been out there, and I lost touch with him. He walked away from me. So because I'm a meditator, you know, I went to see my dad. What you said just kind of rang a bell. I went to see my dad. And so I knocked on the door, and he said, John, is that you? How did he know? And so I went in and gave my dad a hug, and he said, I understand you're meditating. Could we meditate together? And so he said, we meditated together, and my dad wanted to come back with me to the world. And he said, by golly, he said, I'm meditating with my father now, and everything's different. He said, somehow this idea of character and virtue rings a bell, he said. What is the lesson that the Buddha instructed about relationships as the way to live as an authentic meditator when you're not on the cushion? Filiality is this word, right? This is the word that the Chinese have always included in their teachings of Dharma. This is what Master Hua wanted, I think, us Americans, who when we get the car keys at age 16, we're gone, right? So I think this is what he wanted to do. He called filiality and this virtue, he called it 救国妙药, the wonderful medicine, the panacea that will save our country, America. Because our families are split about as far as they can go now. You know, single parent families, multiple parent families. And then we replace our human relationships with our Facebook friends, which does not satisfy that same need. So I'm just going to suggest the best thing I learned from my teacher was this teaching on virtue, which I truly believe was the Buddha's intent. The first step to becoming not only pure and concentrated, but also wise, is to set our practice down on the root of our lives that is our parents. They say trees stand on their roots, humans stand on the roots that are our parents. And that's why these days, when people say, would you teach me meditation? I say, when was the last time you called your mom? And they go, what does that have to do with it? I say, go meditate and then we'll talk about it. Right? So that's my first statement. The thing that I feel the most valuable treasure I got was the Chinese Mahayana Buddhist tradition's preservation of the traditional way of looking at humanity as a sum of our relationships. That we indeed are the fruits and flowers of generations of ancestors that have gone before, through us to our either flesh and blood children or our Dharma children on in the future. So I would ask Master Ming Hai, I'm done for my first one, what is it about filiality, this idea of virtue in China that you have either rebuilt? Are Chinese young people interested in the same kind of teaching, and what's your experience regarding it?
Maybe we have meet with the same challenge when teaching people the Dharma from Buddha. I noticed that at this time, people used to take the meditation as some electrical products, some tools. They don't understand it has to be rooted, has to root together with our way of daily life. So the same thing in China, not only in the West. I noticed most Western friends take the technique of meditation as a mobile phone, as some electrical tools.
As a gadget. Meditation is a gadget. Okay, there we go.
It can bring much more happiness to him. On vacation, he doesn't change his own way of life. The same thing in China. So Master Hans has given us a very wonderful description about his experience when teaching the young people. Why parents are so important? From the teaching of Dharma, parents don't only exist outside, but also exist inside our life. So if you run away from the reality, from this reality, and put our attention always outwards, attracted by many outside temptations, then there should be a very deep disorder lying in our heart, which we don't like to see, to face it, to see it. So in our Chinese tradition culture, so we take the whole universe as two very important elements. The first is yin, the second is yang, just like heaven, the ground, woman, man, husband, wife, and our father and a mother. For everyone, both physical and mental level, there exist these two elements. So these very important two sources, father and mother, we can take them as some symbol. The inside exist. We cannot depart them. So Master Han's teaching is to bring our attention back to ourselves, to face those disorder lying deeply in our mind. In the tradition of Chinese culture, the filiality virtue comes from two sources. The first is Confucianism. And later, when Buddhism comes from India, it improved this virtue. On what point did Buddhism has improved on this virtue? I think for the Buddhism, it added that kind of wisdom into this virtue. In Buddhism's history, we can understand the reality is also very important. For our Lord Buddha, after he gained the full enlightenment, he was born. A week after he was born, his own mother passed away. So after he gained the full enlightenment, he went to the heaven to give preachments to his own mother for 90 days. 90 days. And under his seat, there was a very outstanding, great disciple whose name we call Mu Jianlian
Madhyayana.
Madhyayana.
Madhyayana. Everybody together say Mahamadhyayana. No way.
Yeah, Mu Jianlian. And he gained the achievements of Arahant. After that, he used his miracle to see where his own mother living now. Terribly, he saw that his mother is in the deep miserable condition, and he decided to help her using his own power, superpower, but he failed. Then he came to the Buddha for help. Buddha told him, please, when the Sangha of the monks closed the season, completed the season closed practice, you can do offering to the monks of Sangha. By these merits, your mother will be saved. So this story is from a sutra, and this sutra was greatly emphasized by Chinese people. You cannot imagine. Chinese ancestors even take this, created a drama from this sutra. Create a drama. And this kind of drama are very well known all over the country. We call
Okay, that's good.
Then
Footnote.
it's time for him. Maybe in this drama, it tells the story about the Mu Jianye and his mother's story. There are many singing. Maybe Master Hen Shi, though he is American, though I'm Chinese, I cannot sing this drama. But though he's American, he can sing some paragraph of
Can
this
you
drama.
imagine?
Yeah.
The nerve. Okay, I got it. Oh, way up. I wanted to just add a footnote. Whether or not I sing is another story. I don't think you guys pay me enough to sing. I think I should. No, I'm kidding about that part. All right. So the story of Madhyayana saving his mother is such a powerful image, such a powerful theme for Buddhist Asia that, as far as I know, there are movies, plays, operas, comic books, TV series, novels, and entire holidays. In Japan, Ubon Matsuri in Japan, national holiday for days, all arises from Ulambana, which means saving those hanging upside down. The story of Madhyayana saving his mother. I'll give you one example, just a few lines. There is a song, a famous Buddhist song, based on the story. I learned it as a college student, and it goes like this. 昔日有个母莲上救母去临地借我岭上有多少路 Translation. In the past, there was a monk named Madhyayana who went to the hells to save his mother. How far is it to Magic Mountain? It's very far away.
Final sentence. The next sentence. What's the following sentence?
Okay, 借问灵山有多少路？有事8万，有事8万3000，有余令南无阿弥陀佛。
So long away.
Yes, very far away.
I guess the following sentence will tell us how long the way if you want to arrive at the Indians is at present.
It's at this moment.
Yeah,
Right
so
before your nose.
maybe on your foot. So there is some other interesting story about this topic that is like this. A very devoted Buddhist, every day he called to bowing to the Guanyin Bodhisattva, and he earned much money to pay pilgrims to the Guanyin Bodhisattvas, Avalokitesvas, the sand mountain in China, Putuoshan. Finally, this young man has a mother, and finally he succeeded after many efforts, and he arrived at the mountain. There are many temples, and he looked for Guanyin Bodhisattva everywhere in the mountain. Finally, he met with a monk. The monk told him. He asked the monk, "Where is Guanyin Bodhisattva?" The monk said, "Please return to home as soon as possible." That woman, who, with his shirt slightly covering, and with his shoes disorder, she is Guanyin Bodhisattva. So this young man hurried back to his home day and night. At night he arrived finally. His mother has gone to bed. On hearing the lock of the door, her mother hurriedly jumped up and have her shirt slightly 披着，怎么说
？Barely, she wasn't wearing very much. She just wore a thin layer.
Yeah, she didn't wear very much, and because so hurriedly to see his son for so long time, she didn't wear his shoes well.
One was backwards.
Yeah, this order, and then opened the door. So on catching sight of this, his mother, the young man, was enlightened about the teaching from the monks. So his own mother is Guanyin Bodhisattva. So there are many so interesting stories. So in China, okay.
What I'm showing is the four characters. Madhyayana saves his mother. The point of these stories in the song and the play and the comic book is to say that the Chinese have early on, and the Indians as well, made this connection between someone who, after death, did not forget his mother. That connection even survived death. He went down to save her and was successful. So, big lesson for the Asian mind. What does it have to say to us now?
Yeah. So now in China, when we organize the young people to do meditation, we in order to help them, we from my master's time, since my master's time, we organized the summer camp for the young people since 1993, each summer. So there will be many young girls and boys coming to our temple. Each time we can receive about 300 or 400 of them. Do you know how many of them applied for this? These years, very often, 2,000 young people applied for the sum, and we choose only 300 of them. So, in our organizing activity, okay.
Okay.
So we will organize them in groups, as small groups, and give the topic, and help them to share each other, such as the most grateful person in your life. So everyone should talk about this topic, share with others.
Who is the person to whom you are the most grateful?
Yeah. So by this way, we can help them to return to their own daily life, their own attitude to the parents, and the daily actions, conductions. Yeah.
We are now down to the last 3 minutes of our section. We were planning to go, we had a list of topics. We only got to the first one. This is Rich. I know many of you have come wanting to hear from a Chinese monk. what's going on in Buddhism? And I'm hoping that after our next section that we are co-sharing, these questions will come. But just for now, as a teaser, could you tell Master Ming Hai how many monasteries, how many monks, how many schools are currently in Buddhist China now, in the People's Republic of China?
You know, during the Great Cultural Revolution, Chinese Buddhism has been greatly damaged. After that, those old masters has tried their best to reconstruct. So after nearly 40 years, now in China there are about 20,000 monks and nuns, and about
200,000.
200,000 monks and nuns, and there are 80,000 temples or centers in China recognized by the government. So considering much more who had not recognized regularly, much more maybe. Bawan, the 寺院, and there are 39 institutes, 39 colleges of Buddhists in China, including Tibetan. Tibetan, they have 10 colleges, and in our area 29 Buddhist institutes. So now that's the case.
Buddhism is back in China to the tune of 200,000 monastics, 80,000 monasteries. Chinese scale. Their summer camp has 300. We have, a third of that in ours, and that's considered great. So, wow, the door is open for sharing between the Buddhist world of China and the West. And we're hoping that religion can be certainly a bridge. In the future, there's lots of misunderstanding about the cultures of the East, and when the Buddhists, East and West, meditate and repay parents' kindness with the same voice, I think there's a solid foundation for preserving peace among great nations.